The stagecoach lurched to a halt in front of the weathered general store, and Olivia Jensen clutched her carpetbag tighter, her knuckles white beneath her worn gloves as she peered through the dusty window at the small frontier town of Kingfisher, Oklahoma Territory, wondering if she had made the biggest mistake of her life. It was October of 1892, and the autumn air carried the scent of dry grass and distant wood smoke. Olivia had traveled nearly 2,000 miles from Philadelphia, leaving behind everything she had ever known, to become the bride of a man she had never met. The letters had been kind, the arrangement practical, and her circumstances desperate enough to make the decision seem reasonable at the time. Now, watching the handful of people moving along the dirt road, she felt her stomach twist with uncertainty. The driver opened the door and offered his weathered hand. "This is your stop, miss. Kingfisher, Oklahoma Territory." Olivia took a deep breath and accepted his assistance, stepping down onto the wooden platform. Her green traveling dress was covered in dust from the journey, and she knew her dark auburn hair had long since escaped its careful arrangement. She was 22 years old, reasonably educated, and until 6 months ago had been working as a seamstress in a factory that had closed its doors without warning. The advertisement for a mail-order bride had seemed like providence, even if it meant traveling to the edge of civilization. "Miss Jensen." A thin man with spectacles approached, his expression uncertain. He wore a dark suit that had seen better days and carried a ledger under one arm. "I am Herbert Morrison, the postmaster and notary. I handle the correspondence for Mr. Benedict Harper." Olivia felt her heart sink slightly. This was not the man she had been writing to then. "Yes, I am Olivia Jensen. Is Mr. Harper not able to meet me himself?" Morrison shifted uncomfortably, adjusting his spectacles. "Mr. Harper's ranch is about 8 miles outside of town. He sent word this morning that he would be delayed. There was trouble with some of his cattle getting through a broken fence. He asked if you would be willing to wait at the hotel, and he will collect you before nightfall." The disappointment must have shown on Olivia's face because Morrison quickly added, "I assure you, Miss Jensen, Benedict Harper is a good man. He is honest and hardworking. The delay is unavoidable, but he will come. He gave me money for your room and meals." Olivia nodded slowly, trying to maintain her composure. She had traveled so far, and now she would wait even longer to meet the man who would become her husband. "I understand. Thank you, Mr. Morrison." The hotel was a modest 2-story building with a faded sign that read Kingfisher Inn. Morrison carried her bag and saw her settled into a small but clean room on the 2nd floor. Through the window, she could see most of the town: the general store, a saloon, a church with a white steeple, and various other buildings scattered along the main street. In the distance, the prairie stretched endlessly, golden grass waving in the October breeze. After Morrison left, Olivia removed her hat and gloves, then poured water from the pitcher into the basin to wash her face and hands. She studied her reflection in the small mirror above the dresser. Her face was oval-shaped with high cheekbones, and her hazel eyes looked back at her with a mixture of apprehension and determination. She was not a great beauty, but she had been told she was pleasant to look upon. Would Benedict Harper be disappointed? Their correspondence had been polite and informative. He had written about his ranch, his cattle, his plans for the future. He was 30 years old, had been ranching for the past 7 years, and had lost his parents to fever 3 years prior. He wanted a wife, a partner, someone to share the work and eventually raise a family. Olivia had written about her work as a seamstress, her love of reading, her practical nature. Neither had been overly romantic in their letters, but there had been warmth there, or so she had thought. Olivia lay down on the bed, intending to rest for just a moment, but the exhaustion from days of travel overtook her, and she fell into a deep sleep. She woke to the sound of voices in the street below and sat up quickly, disoriented. The light had changed, and she realized it was late afternoon. She hurried to make herself more presentable, changing into her better dress, a modest burgundy wool with black trim, and attempting to properly arrange her hair. Her hands trembled slightly as she pinned the auburn waves into place. A knock on the door made her jump. "Miss Jensen." "Mr. Harper is downstairs waiting for you." Olivia took one last look in the mirror, straightened her shoulders, and opened the door. The hotel keeper, a middle-aged woman with a kind face, smiled at her. "He is a good man, dear. Do not look so frightened." "Thank you," Olivia whispered, though her voice felt tight. She descended the stairs slowly, her hand gripping the railing. The lobby was small, with just a desk and a few chairs. A man stood with his back to her, looking out the front window. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders and dark brown hair that curled slightly at his collar. He wore work clothes, denim trousers, a flannel shirt, a leather vest, and boots that had clearly seen hard use. He turned as she reached the bottom of the stairs, and Olivia felt her breath catch. Benedict Harper was not handsome in a refined way, but his face was striking. Strong jaw, straight nose, and eyes the color of storm clouds. Those eyes studied her with an intensity that made her feel exposed, as if he could see past all her carefully maintained composure to the frightened woman beneath. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Benedict removed his hat, revealing more of his tanned face and the small scar above his left eyebrow. "Miss Jensen, I apologize for not being here when you arrived. There was trouble at the ranch that needed my attention." His voice was deep and rough, like gravel under wagon wheels, but not unkind. Olivia found her own voice. "Mr. Harper, I understand. These things happen." He nodded slowly, still studying her face. "You look tired from your journey. We have about an hour's ride to the ranch. If you would rather wait until morning, I can arrange for you to stay another night here." "No," Olivia said quickly, surprising herself. "I would prefer to see my new home, if that is acceptable." Something flickered in Benedict's eyes, though she could not identify the emotion. "The wagon is out front. I will get your bags." The wagon was a sturdy farm wagon with a bench seat and a covered bed in back. Benedict loaded her trunk and carpetbag, then offered his hand to help her up. His palm was calloused and rough, his grip firm but careful. Once she was seated, he climbed up beside her and took the reins. They rode in silence through the town and out onto the prairie road. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the golden grass, and the air was crisp with the promise of coming winter. Olivia clasped her hands in her lap, acutely aware of the solid presence of the man beside her. "The ranch is called the Broken H," Benedict said finally, his eyes on the road ahead. "It is not fancy, but it is mine. I have about 500 head of cattle, some horses, chickens, a milk cow. The house is small but sturdy. I have been working to improve it." "It sounds fine," Olivia replied. "I am not accustomed to luxury, Mr. Harper. I am accustomed to work." He glanced at her then, and she thought she saw approval in his expression. "I read that in your letters. I want you to know that I will not expect you to work beyond your strength. I know this is a difficult adjustment, coming from the city to this." "I am stronger than I look," Olivia said quietly, "and I keep my promises. I agreed to come here and be your wife. I will fulfill that agreement to the best of my ability." Benedict was quiet for a moment. "I want more than that, Miss Jensen. I do not want a servant or someone fulfilling an obligation. I want a partner, someone who chooses to be here." The words were unexpected, and Olivia turned to look at him fully. His profile was stern, his jaw set, but there was something vulnerable in the admission. "I understand, Mr. Harper, but choice sometimes grows from commitment. I chose to come here. Perhaps in time I will choose to stay for other reasons." He met her eyes briefly, and she saw surprise there and something else that made her heart beat faster. "That is honest, at least. I appreciate honesty." "It is all I have to offer at the moment," Olivia said. "That and whatever skills I possess." "Your letters suggested you have many skills," Benedict replied. "You can read and write well, you can sew, you managed a household after your mother passed. Those are valuable things out here." "What else did my letters tell you?" Olivia asked, curious what impression she had made through words alone. Benedict was quiet for a long moment, guiding the horses around a rough patch in the road. "They told me you were practical and sensible. They told me you had known loss and hardship. They told me you were willing to work hard for a better life. They also told me you liked poetry, though you seemed embarrassed to mention it." Olivia felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I did not think a rancher would care about such things." "My mother loved poetry," Benedict said softly. "She used to read to me when I was young. Longfellow was her favorite. After she died, I kept her books. I do not read them often, but I have not forgotten the words." The admission created an unexpected intimacy between them, and Olivia felt some of her anxiety ease. "I would like to see those books sometime, if you would allow it." "They are yours now," Benedict said simply. "Everything I have is yours once we are married." The mention of marriage brought reality crashing back. "When did you plan for the ceremony to take place?" "I thought we might give you a few days to settle in," Benedict replied. "Unless you would prefer to wait longer. The circuit preacher comes through Kingfisher once a month. He will be here again in 2 weeks." Olivia considered this. Part of her wanted to delay, to have more time to become accustomed to this strange new world and this enigmatic man. But another part recognized that waiting would only prolong the uncertainty. 2 weeks seems reasonable. It will give us time to become better acquainted. And time for you to change your mind if you wish to return east, Benedict added quietly. Olivia looked at him sharply. "Do you want me to change my mind?" "No," he said firmly, meeting her eyes again. "But I want you to stay because you choose to, not because you feel trapped." Before Olivia could respond, the wagon crested a small rise and Benedict gestured ahead. "There. That is the broken H." The ranch spread out before them in a shallow valley. The house was indeed small, a one-story structure built of timber and stone with a covered porch along the front. Behind it stood a barn, several corrals, a chicken coop, and various other outbuildings. Cattle grazed in the distance, and she could see horses in one of the corrals. It was modest but well-maintained, and something about the sight of it made Olivia's throat tighten unexpectedly. This could be home, she thought. If I let it be. Benedict drove the wagon up to the house and set the brake. Before Olivia could attempt to climb down on her own, he was there, offering his hand again. She accepted it and stepped down, looking around with growing interest. "Let me show you inside," Benedict said, retrieving her bags from the wagon bed. The house was simple but clean. The main room served as both kitchen and sitting area, with a stone fireplace, a wooden table with 4 chairs, a rocking chair, and various shelves and cabinets. There were 2 other doors, which Benedict indicated led to the bedroom and a small storage room. "I have been sleeping in the storage room," Benedict said, setting her bags down near the bedroom door. "The bedroom is yours until after we are married. I want you to feel comfortable here." Olivia was touched by his consideration. "Thank you, Mr. Harper. That is very kind." "Benedict," he corrected gently. "If we are to be married, you should call me Benedict, and I would like to call you Olivia if you permit it." "Yes, of course," Olivia agreed, surprised at how strange it felt to hear her given name in his deep voice. Benedict moved to the fireplace and began building up the fire. "You must be hungry. I am not much of a cook, but I can manage stew and biscuits. Or if you are too tired, there is bread and cheese." "Let me cook," Olivia said impulsively. "If you will show me where things are kept, I would like to make supper. I need to learn your kitchen anyway." Benedict straightened and turned to face her, and for the first time she saw him almost smile. "All right. But tonight, let me help you. Tomorrow you can take charge." They worked together to prepare the meal, and Olivia found herself relaxing in the simple domestic activity. Benedict showed her where he kept the provisions, the cooking implements, the dishes. His pantry was better stocked than she had expected, with flour, cornmeal, dried beans, salt pork, canned vegetables, and various other staples. "I go into town once a month for supplies," Benedict explained. "In winter, sometimes it is longer between trips, so I keep plenty on hand." Olivia made stew from salt pork, dried beans, and canned tomatoes, seasoning it with herbs she found in small jars on a shelf. Benedict made surprisingly decent biscuits, and soon they sat down to eat at the wooden table. "This is good," Benedict said after his first bite of stew. "Better than anything I have made in months." "It is simple fare," Olivia replied, but she was pleased nonetheless. They ate in companionable silence for a while. Then Benedict said, "Tell me about Philadelphia. What was it like living in a city?" Olivia considered the question. "Crowded, noisy. There were always people and carriages and noise. The factory where I worked was loud, and the air was often thick with smoke. But there were also wonderful things: libraries, theaters, shops with goods from all over the world. I lived in a boarding house with other working women. We looked after each other." "Do you miss it?" Benedict asked quietly. "I miss the friends I made," Olivia admitted. "I miss knowing what to expect each day. But I do not miss the factory, or the worry about money, or the feeling that I was just one small part of a great machine that did not care if I lived or died." Benedict nodded slowly. "I understand that feeling. When I worked for other ranchers before I had my own place, I felt the same way. There is freedom in having your own land, even if it means more risk and harder work." "Tell me about the ranch," Olivia said, genuinely interested. "How did you come to own it?" Benedict leaned back in his chair, his expression growing distant. "My parents had a small farm in Kansas. They died of fever in the summer of 1889. I sold the farm and used the money to come here to Oklahoma Territory. Land was opening up, and I saw opportunity. I filed my claim, bought a small herd of cattle with what money I had left, and started building. It has not been easy, but every year I do a little better. Every year the herd grows, the buildings improve. It is mine, and someday it will be something substantial to pass on to children." The mention of children made Olivia's cheeks warm, but she did not look away. "It must have been difficult, doing all this alone." "It has been," Benedict admitted. "That is why I decided to find a wife. I am not a young man anymore, and this life is hard without a partner. I thought about courting someone local, but the few single women in the area are either too young or already spoken for. The advertisement seemed like the best option." "I am glad you placed it," Olivia said softly. "Whatever uncertainty I feel now, I know I am better off here than I was in Philadelphia." Benedict's storm-gray eyes fixed on her face. "I will do everything in my power to ensure you never regret coming here, Olivia. I promise you that." The intensity in his voice made something flutter in Olivia's chest, but she was not yet ready to examine that feeling too closely. Instead, she rose and began clearing the dishes. "Then we will make this work together, Benedict." That night, lying in the bedroom that would soon be hers and Benedict's, Olivia stared at the ceiling and listened to the unfamiliar sounds of the prairie night. Wind whispered through the grass, cattle lowed in the distance, and somewhere an owl called out. It was so different from the city sound she had known all her life, but it was not unpleasant. She thought about Benedict sleeping in the next room, about the quiet strength she sensed in him, about the gentleness in his rough hands, and the vulnerability she had glimpsed beneath his stern exterior. He was not what she had expected, though she was not certain what she had expected. But she felt, tentatively, that this might work, that she might be able to build a life here. The next morning, Olivia woke to the smell of coffee and found that Benedict had already been up for hours. She dressed quickly in one of her older work dresses and joined him in the main room. "There is coffee and oatmeal," Benedict said, gesturing to the pot on the stove. "I did not want to wake you. You needed the rest." "What time is it?" Olivia asked, mortified that she had slept so late. "About 7. I have already fed the horses and chickens and milked the cow. The cattle are out on the range, so they take care of themselves mostly. I need to ride out and check on them today, make sure none are injured or sick." Olivia poured herself coffee, grateful for the warmth of the cup in her hands. "What can I do to help?" Benedict studied her for a moment. "Today, just settle in. Learn where things are, make yourself comfortable. There will be plenty of work soon enough." But Olivia was not accustomed to idleness. After Benedict rode out on his sturdy bay horse, she set about learning the rhythms of the ranch. She explored the chicken coop and gathered eggs, familiarized herself with the pantry and the root cellar where vegetables and preserves were stored, examined the small vegetable garden behind the house that was mostly finished for the season. She spent time organizing the house, which was clean but clearly lacked a woman's touch. She found Benedict's mother's books on a high shelf, carefully wrapped in cloth to protect them from dust. There were volumes of Longfellow, Wordsworth, and Whitman, as well as several novels. Olivia ran her fingers over the covers reverently, imagining Benedict's mother reading these same books. When Benedict returned in the late afternoon, he found the house transformed in small ways. The table had a cloth on it now, one Olivia had found in her trunk. The books were displayed on a lower shelf where they could be easily reached. Fresh bread sat cooling on the counter, and something savory simmered on the stove. "You have been busy," Benedict observed, washing his hands in the basin by the door. "I hope you do not mind," Olivia said quickly. "I only moved a few things." "I do not mind," Benedict assured her. "It already feels more like a home." Over supper, Benedict told her about the cattle he had checked that day, about the winter preparations that would need to be made soon. Olivia listened attentively, asking questions, learning the vocabulary of ranch life. "Tomorrow, if you are willing, I will teach you to ride," Benedict said. "You will need to know how in case of emergency, and it will give you more freedom to move about." Olivia felt a flutter of nervousness but nodded. "I would like that. I rode a horse once as a child, but it has been many years." "We will start slowly," Benedict promised. The next morning, Benedict brought a gentle mare named Rosie from the corral. The horse was older, with a calm temperament, and Olivia felt her nervousness ease slightly as she stroked the mare's soft nose. Benedict showed her how to approach the horse, how to place the saddle and secure it, how to mount and hold the reins. His hands were patient on hers as he adjusted her grip, his voice calm as he explained. Olivia was acutely aware of his closeness, the warmth of his body, the scent of leather and hay that clung to him. "Riding astride is more practical than side saddle out here," Benedict said. "I hope that does not shock you." "I left my capacity to be shocked somewhere around Kansas," Olivia replied with a hint of humor, and was rewarded with another of Benedict's almost smiles. She mounted awkwardly, grateful for Benedict's steadying hand on her waist. The ground seemed very far away suddenly, and Rosie felt enormous beneath her, but Benedict kept one hand on the mare's bridle. "Just sit for a moment," he instructed. "Get used to the feeling." Olivia took a deep breath and tried to relax. Benedict walked beside Rosie, leading her slowly around the corral. After several circuits, Olivia began to feel more comfortable, and Benedict let her try guiding the mare herself. By the end of the hour, Olivia was flushed with triumph and exhaustion. Her legs ached from gripping the saddle, but she had managed to walk and trot Rosie around the corral without mishap. "You did well," Benedict said, helping her dismount. His hands lingered at her waist for just a moment longer than necessary. "Tomorrow we will ride out a little ways from the house, if you feel ready." "I will be ready," Olivia promised, though she suspected she would be very sore by morning. The days fell into a rhythm. Mornings were for chores, feeding animals, gathering eggs, milking the cow, preparing meals. Afternoons, Benedict taught Olivia more about ranch work, or they rode together across the prairie, checking on cattle and fences. Evenings were spent over supper and quiet conversation, or reading aloud from the books that had belonged to Benedict's mother. Olivia found herself looking forward to those evenings most of all. Benedict's voice, so rough in everyday speech, became almost melodic when reading poetry. He would sit in the rocking chair by the fire, the book in his large hands, and read while Olivia sewed or mended by lamplight. Sometimes she would catch him watching her, and their eyes would meet, and something unspoken would pass between them. She was beginning to feel something for him, Olivia realized. It was not the passionate love of novels, but something quieter and deeper. Respect, admiration, a growing affection. She saw how hard he worked, how carefully he maintained everything he had built, how gently he treated the animals. She saw his loneliness and his hope, his strength and his unexpected tenderness. And she saw the way he looked at her, with an intensity that made her breath catch and her heart race. A week after her arrival, Olivia woke to find the first frost of autumn coating the prairie in silver. She stood on the porch wrapped in a shawl, watching the sun rise over the endless grass, and felt a profound sense of peace. Benedict emerged from the barn and saw her standing there. He approached slowly, as if not wanting to disturb the moment. "Beautiful, is it not?" he said quietly, standing beside her. "Yes," Olivia agreed. "I never imagined anything could be so beautiful." Benedict turned to look at her, and in his eyes she saw something that made her heart pound. "Olivia, I want to tell you something." "Yes." She turned to face him fully. He seemed to struggle for words, this man who was usually so certain. "I know we agreed to marry in 2 weeks when the preacher comes. But I want you to know that if you have any doubts, any hesitation, you can still return east. I will give you the money for passage. I will not hold you to this agreement if you are unhappy." Olivia felt her throat tighten with emotion. "Do you want me to leave?" "No," Benedict said fiercely. "That is the last thing I want, but I want you to choose freely. I want you to want to be here." Olivia reached out and placed her hand on his chest, feeling his heart beating strong and fast beneath her palm. "I choose to stay, Benedict. I choose to marry you. Not because I feel trapped or obligated, but because I want to build a life here with you." Benedict's hand came up to cover hers, his calloused fingers warm. "You have brought something to this place that was missing. You have brought life and warmth and purpose. You have brought harvest to my empty heart." The words, so poetic from a man who claimed to be practical, made tears spring to Olivia's eyes. "You have given me hope, Benedict. You have given me a home." He lifted his free hand to her face, his thumb gently wiping away a tear that had escaped. "May I kiss you, Olivia?" "Yes," she whispered. Benedict bent slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished. But Olivia did not pull away. She lifted her face to his, and when their lips met, it was gentle and sweet and full of promise. His arms came around her, drawing her close, and Olivia felt safe and cherished in a way she had never experienced before. When they finally drew apart, Benedict rested his forehead against hers. "I will spend every day of my life making you happy," he murmured. "I swear it." "And I will spend mine being the partner you deserve," Olivia replied. They stood together on the porch, watching the frost melt away as the sun rose higher, and Olivia knew without doubt that she had made the right choice in coming here. The next week passed in a golden haze. Benedict took Olivia into town to meet more of the residents of Kingfisher and to make arrangements for their wedding. They purchased fabric for Olivia to make a new dress, simple but in a shade of deep blue that made her eyes look green. Benedict bought her a gold wedding band from the general store, and she saw his hands tremble slightly as he slipped it on her finger to check the size. They met with the preacher, Reverend Thomas, a kindly older man who seemed pleased to be conducting a wedding ceremony. Olivia also met several other women in town who welcomed her warmly and offered advice about surviving prairie winters and keeping a ranch house. As the wedding day approached, Olivia found herself growing nervous again, but for different reasons now. She and Benedict had grown closer, their conversations deeper, their glances more meaningful. He touched her more freely now, a hand at her back, his fingers brushing hers, his lips on her forehead in greeting or farewell. But they had maintained propriety, sleeping in separate rooms, never crossing certain boundaries. That would change after they were married, and Olivia felt a complex mixture of anticipation and apprehension about what that would mean. The night before the wedding, Benedict made a special supper. He had shot a turkey and roasted it, and Olivia had made pie from dried apples. They ate by candlelight, the atmosphere both festive and slightly melancholy. "Are you frightened?" Benedict asked softly after they had finished eating. Olivia considered lying but decided on honesty. "A little. Not of you, but of the unknown, of disappointing you." Benedict reached across the table and took her hand. "You could never disappoint me, Olivia. You have already exceeded every hope I had when I placed that advertisement. I am the one who worries about disappointing you." "You will not," Olivia said firmly. "I know you will not." He raised her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. "Tomorrow you will be my wife. I will do everything in my power to make you happy, to protect you, to honor you. I promise you that." "And I promise to be your partner in all things," Olivia replied. "To work beside you, to support you, to build this life with you." They sat in the candlelight, hands clasped, making quiet promises to each other, until the night grew late and they reluctantly parted to their separate rooms for the last time. The wedding day dawned clear and cool, the autumn sky a brilliant blue. Olivia dressed in her new blue dress, her hair carefully arranged with a few small flowers that Benedict had bought in town. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a different woman than the one who had arrived in Kingfisher 2 weeks ago. That woman had been tired, uncertain, afraid. This woman was still uncertain in some ways, but she was also hopeful, determined, and falling in love. They rode into town together in the wagon, and Olivia was touched to find that many of the townspeople had gathered at the small church for the ceremony. It seemed that Benedict was well liked and respected, and people were genuinely happy to see him taking a bride. The ceremony itself was simple. Reverend Thomas spoke about the sacred nature of marriage, about partnership and mutual support. Benedict's voice was steady as he spoke his vows, his eyes never leaving Olivia's face. When it came time for her vows, Olivia's voice trembled slightly, but she did not falter. "I, Olivia Rose Jensen, take you, Benedict William Harper, to be my lawfully wedded husband." I promise to stand by your side in plenty and in want, in joy and in sorrow, in sickness and in health, as long as we both shall live." When Benedict kissed her to seal their vows, it was deeper than their first kiss had been, a claiming and a promise. Olivia felt something shift inside her, a final wall crumbling. She was his now and he was hers, and she found she wanted that more than she had realized. The townspeople congratulated them warmly. Mrs. Morrison, the postmaster's wife, had organized a small reception at the town hall, with cake and punch and well wishes. Benedict kept his arm around Olivia's waist, and she could see pride and happiness in his face as he introduced her as his wife. As the afternoon waned, they climbed back into the wagon for the ride home. Olivia was quiet, her nervousness returning as she thought about the night ahead. Benedict seemed to sense her apprehension. "Olivia, look at me," he said gently, pulling the horses to a stop at the edge of town. She turned to face him and he cupped her face in his hands. "I love you," he said simply. "I know we have only known each other a short time, but I love you. Your strength, your kindness, your courage in leaving everything you knew to come here. I will be patient and gentle with you tonight. I want you to enjoy being my wife, not endure it." The words, so tender and honest, made Olivia's eyes fill with tears. "I love you too," she whispered, realizing as she said it that it was true. Somewhere in the past 2 weeks, she had fallen in love with this quiet, strong, unexpectedly gentle man. "I am not afraid of you, Benedict. I am only afraid of my own ignorance." "Then we will learn together," he said, kissing her softly. "We have a lifetime for learning." When they arrived home, Benedict carried her over the threshold, making her laugh. He set her down gently in the main room, which glowed warmly in the light of the fire he had left banked that morning. "Are you hungry?" he asked. "We could have some of the cake Mrs. Morrison sent home with us." Olivia recognized that he was giving her time to adjust, and she loved him even more for it. "That sounds nice." They sat at the table, now adorned with the cloth Olivia had brought from Philadelphia, eating cake and talking quietly about the ceremony, about the people they had met, about small, ordinary things. The conversation eased Olivia's nervousness, and by the time they finished eating, she felt calmer. Benedict stood and offered his hand. "Will you come with me, wife?" Olivia placed her hand in his. "Yes, husband." He led her to the bedroom, where she saw that he had placed candles around the room, their light soft and warm. The bed had fresh linens and there were wildflowers in a jar on the small table. "I wanted it to be special," Benedict said quietly. Olivia turned to him, reaching up to touch his face. "It is special because it is with you." Benedict pulled her close, his arms strong and secure around her. "I love you, Olivia Harper." "I love you, Benedict," she replied, and then there were no more words needed. The night passed in tenderness and discovery, Benedict proving as patient and gentle as he had promised. Olivia learned the contours of his body, the roughness of his calloused hands and the surprising softness of his lips. She learned how to please him and how to accept pleasure herself. And when they finally lay entwined in the darkness, she felt a completeness she had never imagined possible. "Are you all right?" Benedict whispered, his fingers trailing through her hair. "More than all right," Olivia assured him. "I feel like I finally understand what it means to be whole." Benedict kissed her forehead. "Sleep now, we have the rest of our lives for this." Olivia curled against his side, her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Outside, the October wind whispered through the prairie grass, and an owl called in the distance. But inside, wrapped in her husband's arms, Olivia felt nothing but warmth and peace and love. The weeks that followed were among the happiest of Olivia's life. She and Benedict fell into an easy partnership, working together during the days and enjoying each other's company in the evenings. The weather grew colder as October turned to November, and they prepared the ranch for winter. Olivia learned to preserve meat, to store vegetables properly, to make candles and soap. Benedict taught her to shoot, insisting that she needed to be able to protect herself if he was ever away from the house. She proved to be a decent shot, and Benedict's pride in her accomplishment made her glow. They also learned each other in deeper ways. Olivia discovered that Benedict had a dry sense of humor that emerged when he was comfortable, that he loved to watch the sunset, that he sometimes had nightmares about his parents' deaths. Benedict learned that Olivia sang quietly to herself while she worked, that she had a temper when pushed too far, that she was afraid of spiders but not of much else. Their physical relationship deepened as well. The initial shyness faded, replaced by growing confidence and desire. Olivia found joy in the marriage bed that she had never anticipated, and Benedict proved to be an attentive and passionate husband. Winter came in earnest in December, bringing snow and bitter cold. The ranch work became harder, requiring more time and effort just to keep the animals fed and watered. But inside the small house, warmth and love prevailed. On Christmas morning, Olivia woke to find Benedict already up and stoking the fire. She padded out in her nightgown and wrapper, and he pulled her into his arms. "Merry Christmas, wife," he murmured against her hair. "Merry Christmas, husband," she replied. Benedict led her to the table where a small package wrapped in brown paper sat beside her coffee cup. "I hope you like it." Olivia unwrapped the package carefully and gasped. Inside was a beautiful leather-bound journal and a fine pen. "Benedict, it is too much." "No, it is not," he insisted. "I know you love to read, and I thought perhaps you might like to write as well. To record your thoughts or stories or whatever you wish." Olivia threw her arms around his neck, overcome with emotion. "Thank you. I love it." She had made him a new shirt from fabric she had secretly purchased during their last trip to town, embroidering his initials on the pocket. Benedict's eyes grew suspiciously bright when he opened it. "It is perfect," he said gruffly. "Thank you, Olivia." They spent Christmas Day together, just the two of them, cooking a special meal and reading aloud from one of the books. It was simple and quiet and absolutely perfect. As winter deepened, Olivia began to notice changes in her body. Her monthly courses stopped, and she began to feel queasy in the mornings. She suspected what this meant but waited until she was certain before telling Benedict. It was a snowy evening in late January when she finally gathered her courage. They were sitting by the fire, Benedict mending a piece of harness and Olivia knitting socks, when she spoke. "Benedict, I need to tell you something." He looked up immediately, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "What is it? Are you ill?" "No, not ill," Olivia said, her hands trembling slightly. "I am with child. I think I am about 2 months along." Benedict stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, a smile spread across his face, transforming it. He set aside the harness and crossed to her, pulling her to her feet and into his arms. "A baby," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We are going to have a baby." "Yes," Olivia confirmed, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Are you happy?" "Happy," Benedict laughed, a sound of pure joy. "I am beyond happy. I am blessed." He placed his hand gently on her still, flat belly. "Our child, our future." Olivia covered his hand with hers. "I was afraid to hope, afraid something might go wrong." "Nothing will go wrong," Benedict said fiercely. "I will take care of you. We will take care of you, me and the whole town if necessary. You will have the best of everything, I swear it." Olivia smiled through her tears. "I only need you, Benedict. You and this child. That is all I need." They held each other in the firelight, planning and dreaming, making promises to the child who would come in the autumn. Olivia thought about how much had changed since she had arrived on that October day months ago, frightened and uncertain. Now she stood in her own home in the arms of her beloved husband, carrying their child. She had truly found her place in the world. The winter passed slowly, as prairie winters do. Olivia's pregnancy progressed normally, though the morning sickness was difficult. Benedict was endlessly patient, bringing her dry crackers and weak tea in bed, taking on tasks she normally handled without complaint. As spring arrived and the prairie began to green again, Olivia blossomed. Her belly grew round, and Benedict loved to place his hands on it, feeling the baby kick and move. They spent hours discussing names, making plans for expanding the house to add a proper nursery, imagining what their child would be like. "I hope the baby has your eyes," Benedict said one evening, his hand resting on her belly as they lay in bed. "I hope it has your strength," Olivia replied, lacing her fingers through his. "Boy or girl, it will have the best of both of us," Benedict said confidently. In April, they made the trip to town, and Olivia met with the doctor there, a gruff but competent man named Dr. Phillips. He examined her and pronounced her healthy and the pregnancy progressing well. "The baby should come in early September, I would say," Dr. Phillips told them. "You are doing everything right. Keep eating well, rest when you are tired, and do not overexert yourself." Benedict took the instructions seriously, perhaps too seriously. He began to hover, constantly asking if Olivia needed anything, worrying if she lifted anything heavier than a teacup. Finally, Olivia had to put her foot down. "Benedict, I am pregnant, not made of glass," she said firmly one morning when he tried to stop her from hanging laundry. "I need to keep moving and working. It is good for me and the baby." "I just want you to be safe," Benedict protested. "I know, and I love you for it," Olivia said, cupping his face in her hands. "But you must trust me to know my own limits. I will ask for help when I need it, I promise." Benedict sighed but nodded. "All right, but you will tell me if something feels wrong." "The moment something feels wrong, you will be the first to know," Olivia assured him. Spring turned to summer and the ranch work increased. Benedict hired a young man named Thomas to help with the cattle and the heavy work, insisting that it was necessary now that the herd had grown. Olivia suspected it was also because Benedict wanted to be closer to the house, to be available if she needed him. Thomas was 18, eager and hardworking, and he became a regular presence on the ranch. He was respectful to Olivia, calling her Mrs. Harper and offering to help with tasks she could no longer easily manage. Olivia appreciated the assistance and the company when Benedict had to be away from the house. As summer waned and September approached, Olivia grew increasingly uncomfortable. The baby was large and active, and she had difficulty sleeping. Her ankles swelled, her back ached, and she felt enormous. But every time she felt discouraged, she would feel the baby kick, or Benedict would wrap his arms around her from behind and whisper how beautiful she was, and her spirits would lift. "I feel like a cow," Olivia complained one evening, trying to find a comfortable position in bed. Benedict laughed softly. "You are beautiful, radiant. I have never seen anything more lovely than you carrying our child." "You are biased," Olivia grumbled, but she smiled. "Absolutely," Benedict agreed, kissing her temple, "but it is still true." On a warm night in early September, Olivia woke to a strange sensation. At first, she thought it was just the baby moving, but then she felt a tightening across her belly that took her breath away. She lay still, waiting, and a few minutes later it came again. "Benedict," she whispered, shaking his shoulder. "Benedict, wake up." He came awake instantly. "What is it? What is wrong?" "I think it is time," Olivia said, trying to keep her voice calm. "I think the baby is coming." Benedict was out of bed and pulling on his clothes before she finished speaking. "I will ride to town and get Dr. Phillips. Thomas is in the barn. I will wake him so you are not alone." "Benedict, it could be hours yet," Olivia said, though another contraction made her gasp. "Perhaps you should wait until morning." "No," Benedict said firmly. "I am going now. I want the doctor here." He kissed her quickly and then was gone. Olivia heard him calling for Thomas, heard the sound of a horse galloping away into the night. Then Thomas was at the door, respectful but worried. "Mrs. Harper, Mr. Harper said the baby is coming." "What can I do?" "Help me to the chair," Olivia said, "and perhaps heat some water. We will need clean cloths and blankets." Thomas did as she asked, his young face pale but determined. Olivia found herself grateful for his presence, even though he clearly had no more idea what to do than she did. The contractions came regularly now, growing stronger and closer together. Olivia tried to remember everything she had been told by the women in town, but pain and fear made it difficult to think clearly. She was alone on a prairie ranch, with only an 18-year-old boy for help, and her baby was coming. "Tell me about your family," Olivia gasped during a break between contractions, desperate for distraction. Thomas launched into a rambling story about his parents and his 5 siblings back in Missouri. Olivia half listened, focusing on his voice rather than his words, using it as an anchor against the pain. Dawn was breaking when she finally heard the sound of the wagon. Benedict burst through the door with Dr. Phillips close behind. The doctor took one look at Olivia and immediately took charge. "Out," he ordered Thomas and Benedict. "I will call you when it is over." "No," Olivia said firmly, reaching for Benedict. "I want my husband here." Dr. Phillips looked disapproval but did not argue. "Very well, but you," he pointed at Thomas. "Out." Thomas fled gratefully. The next hours were a blur of pain and effort. Benedict stayed at Olivia's side, holding her hand, whispering encouragement, letting her squeeze his hand hard enough to bruise. Dr. Phillips moved efficiently, checking her progress, offering instructions. Finally, as the sun climbed high in the September sky, Dr. Phillips said, "Now, Mrs. Harper. Push now." Olivia bore down with all her strength, and Benedict's hand was there to hold, his voice in her ear telling her she was strong, she was brave, she could do this. And then, suddenly, a baby's cry filled the room. Dr. Phillips held up a squalling, red-faced infant. "You have a son, Mrs. Harper. A healthy, fine son." Olivia collapsed back against the pillows, exhausted and exhilarated. Benedict was laughing and crying at the same time, and when Dr. Phillips placed the baby in her arms, she understood why. The baby was perfect. Tiny but sturdy, with a shock of dark hair and eyes that would probably be blue like Benedict's. He squalled indignantly at the indignity of being born, his little fists waving. "Hello, my son," Olivia whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Welcome to the world." Benedict leaned over them both, his large hand gently touching the baby's head. "He is perfect. You are perfect. Olivia, you are amazing." Dr. Phillips finished his work efficiently, then stepped back. "You did very well, Mrs. Harper. The baby is healthy and you came through it fine. Rest now, and let that husband of yours take care of you both for a few days." After the doctor left, Benedict lay carefully on the bed beside Olivia and their son. They examined every tiny finger and toe, marveling at the miracle they had created. "What shall we name him?" Benedict asked softly. They had discussed names endlessly but never quite decided. Now, looking at their son, Olivia knew. "What was your father's name?" "William," Benedict said. "William James Harper." "Then our son is James," Olivia said. "James Benedict Harper." Benedict's eyes grew bright. "James? Yes, that is perfect." Little James chose that moment to make his displeasure known, and Olivia laughed despite her exhaustion. "I think he is hungry." With Benedict's help, she figured out how to feed the baby, and as James nursed, Olivia felt a completeness beyond anything she had experienced before. This was her family, her husband and her son, her home and her life. Benedict watched them with an expression of such love and wonder that Olivia's heart felt too full to contain it all. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you," Benedict replied. "Both of you, more than life itself." The next weeks were exhausting and wonderful. James was a healthy baby with strong lungs and a healthy appetite. Olivia learned the rhythms of motherhood, feeding and changing and soothing. Benedict was an attentive father, taking turns walking with James when he fussed, changing diapers without complaint, sitting for hours just watching his son sleep. Thomas proved invaluable, taking on more of the ranch work so Benedict could stay close to the house. The young man was fascinated by the baby, though he was too shy to hold him at first. "He is so small," Thomas said one day, peering at James in his cradle. "Was I ever that small?" "You were," Olivia assured him with a smile. "We all were." As autumn progressed and James grew, Olivia reflected on how much her life had changed in just 1 year. A year ago, she had been a frightened woman on a stagecoach, traveling to marry a stranger. Now she was confident, loved, and a mother. The prairie that had seemed so foreign and frightening was now home, as familiar and dear as her own heartbeat. One evening in late October, exactly 1 year after she had arrived in Kingfisher, Olivia stood on the porch with James in her arms. Benedict came up behind her, wrapping his arms around them both. "1 year ago today you arrived," Benedict murmured. "Do you remember?" "I remember being terrified," Olivia admitted. "I remember thinking I had made a terrible mistake." "And now?" Benedict asked. Olivia turned in his arms, looking up at the man she loved. "Now I know it was the best decision I ever made. Coming here, marrying you, building this life. It has been harder than I imagined, but so much better than I dreamed." Benedict kissed her softly. "You said once that I had brought harvest to your empty heart. But Olivia, you brought the harvest. You brought life and love and joy. You made this house a home and me a whole man." Tears slipped down Olivia's cheeks. "We brought harvest to each other then. We planted seeds and tended them, and now look at what has grown." They stood together as the sun set over the prairie, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber, their son sleeping peacefully in Olivia's arms. The autumn wind whispered through the grass, carrying the scent of harvest and the promise of the season to come. The years that followed were full and rich. James grew strong and healthy, a happy child who loved the ranch and the animals. When he was 2, he became a big brother to a daughter they named Clara Rose. The ranch prospered as well, the herd growing, the buildings expanding. Benedict and Olivia worked side by side, partners in every sense of the word. There were hard times too, as there always are. A drought one summer that threatened the cattle. A winter so harsh that Olivia feared they would not survive it. Illness that struck the children and left her and Benedict terrified. But they faced each challenge together, their love the foundation that kept them strong. Thomas remained with them, growing from a boy into a man under Benedict's mentorship. When he was 22, he married a girl from town, and Benedict helped him buy his own small piece of land nearby. Thomas remained a close friend and a valuable neighbor, always ready to help when needed. The house expanded over the years, adding rooms as the family grew. A third child came, another son they named Daniel, and then a daughter they called Mary. The small ranch house became a proper home, filled with laughter and love and the chaos of children growing up. Olivia kept her journal faithfully, recording the daily life of the ranch, the milestones of their children, the deep love between her and Benedict. Sometimes She would read the early entries and marvel at the frightened woman who had written them, barely recognizing herself in those words. On their 10th anniversary, Benedict surprised Olivia with a gift. It was a painting, commissioned from an artist who had passed through Kingfisher. It showed the ranch house, the barn, the endless prairie, all rendered in beautiful detail. But the heart of the painting was the family standing in front of the house. Benedict and Olivia, surrounded by their 4 children, the image of love and contentment. "So we never forget," Benedict said softly, "how blessed we are." Olivia cried when she saw it, overwhelmed with gratitude for the life they had built. "How could we forget? Every day I wake up grateful for this life, for you, for our children." Benedict pulled her close. "You came to me in autumn, and you have been my harvest ever since. Every good thing in my life stems from that day you arrived in Kingfisher." "And you have been mine," Olivia replied. "My home, my heart, my everything." Their children grew and eventually began lives of their own. James became a rancher like his father, taking over more of the daily operations as Benedict grew older. Clara married a banker from town and moved to Oklahoma City, though she visited often. Daniel became a school teacher, much to everyone's surprise, and Mary followed her mother's love of books and became a librarian. But even as their children scattered, Benedict and Olivia remained at the heart of the Broken H, still partners, still in love. They grew old together, their hair turning gray, their bodies slowing down, but their love never diminishing. On a golden autumn day much like the one when Olivia had first arrived, they sat together on the porch, now in their 60s, watching the sun set over the prairie. James and his wife lived in the new house they had built on the property, and the sounds of their grandchildren playing drifted on the evening air. "You ever regret it?" Benedict asked, his weathered hand clasped with hers. "Leaving Philadelphia, coming here, marrying a stranger?" Olivia looked at him, at the man who had been her husband for over 40 years, the father of her children, her partner in every way that mattered. His face was lined now, his hair silver, but his eyes still held that same intensity that had captivated her all those years ago. "Never," she said firmly. "Not for a single moment. This life, this love, it has been more than I ever dreamed possible. You gave me everything, Benedict. A home, a family, a purpose. You gave me love." Benedict raised her hand to his lips, kissing it gently. "And you gave me the same. You took a lonely man and an empty house and filled them both with life. You brought harvest to my empty heart, and that harvest has sustained me every day since." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. Somewhere in the distance, a meadowlark sang its evening song, and the prairie grass whispered secrets to the wind. Olivia leaned her head on Benedict's shoulder, feeling the solid warmth of him, the steady beat of his heart. She thought about the young woman who had stepped off that stage coach so many years ago, frightened and uncertain, traveling to marry a stranger. She thought about how that one decision, born of desperation and hope, had led to this. A lifetime of love, a family, a legacy. "I love you," she whispered, the words as true now as they had been 40 years ago, perhaps more so for all the years and experiences that had deepened them. "I love you," Benedict replied, his voice rough with age but still strong. "Today, tomorrow, and forever. You are my heart, Olivia. You always have been." As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, they remained there, 2 people who had started as strangers and become one. The autumn night settled over the prairie, bringing with it the promise of another season, another cycle of life. And Benedict and Olivia Harper, their hands clasped and their hearts entwined, faced it together as they had faced everything, with love, with courage, and with the deep knowledge that they had found in each other the greatest treasure of all. The harvest that Olivia had brought to Benedict's empty heart had multiplied beyond measure, creating a legacy of love that would echo through generations. Their children would tell their children about the mail-order bride who came in autumn and the cowboy who found in her his missing half, about a love that began with a leap of faith and grew into something eternal. And on the Broken H Ranch, through all the seasons that followed, that love remained as constant and enduring as the prairie itself, a testament to the power of courage, commitment, and two hearts brave enough to trust in the possibility of happiness. The ranch that had once been lonely and quiet was now filled with life and laughter, all because one woman chose to answer an advertisement and one man chose to open his heart. It was a good life, a rich life, a life worth living. And as the moon rose over the Oklahoma prairie, Benedict and Olivia Harper knew with absolute certainty that they had been blessed beyond measure, that they had found in each other a love that would last not just a lifetime, but forever.